and Jin would take a jar of cooking oil in place of a few yen on rent day. Her mother-in-law had explained that you had to be very good to the lodgers. There were always other places for working men to stay. She explained, men have choices that women don't. At the end of each season, if there were any coins left over, Jin dropped them into a dark earthenware crock and stowed it behind a panel in the closet where her husband had put away the 2 gold rings that had belonged to his mother. At meals, Jin and her daughter served the food noiselessly, while the lodgers talked brashly about politics. The Chung brothers were illiterate, but they followed the news carefully at the docks and liked to analyze the fate of the country at the boarding house dining table. It was the middle of November, and the fishing had been better than expected for the month. The Chung brothers had just woken up. The evening shift lodgers would soon be heading home to sleep. The fishermen brothers would eat their main meal before going out to sea. Well-rested and feisty, the brothers were convinced that Japan couldn't conquer China. Yes, the bastards can take a nibble, but China will not be eaten whole. Impossible, exclaimed the middle Chung brother. Those dwarves can't take over such a great kingdom. China is our elder brother. Japan is just a bad seed. Fatso, the youngest brother, cried, slapping down his cup of warm tea. China will get those sons of bitches. You watch. The poor men mocked their powerful colonizer within the shabby walls of the boarding house, feeling secure from the colonial police who wouldn't bother with fishermen with grandiose ideas. The brothers boasted of China's strengths, their hearts yearning for another nation to be strong since their own rulers had failed them. Korea had been colonized for 22 years already. The younger two had never lived in a Korea that wasn't ruled by Japan. Ajumuni! Fatso shouted genially. Ajumuni! Yes? Jin knew he wanted more to eat. He was a puny young man who ate more than both his brothers combined. Another bowl of your delicious soup? Yes, of course. Jin retrieved it from the kitchen. Fatso slurped it down, and the men left the house for work. The evening shift lodgers came home soon after, washed up, and ate their suppers quickly. They smoked their pipes, then went to sleep. The women cleared the tables and ate their simple dinner quietly because the men were sleeping. The servant girls and Sunja tidied the kitchen and cleaned the dirty wash basins. Jin checked the coal before she prepared for bed. The brothers' talk of China lingered in her mind. Huni used to listen carefully to all the men who brought him news, and he would nod, exhale resolutely, and then get up to take care of the chores. No matter, he would say, no matter. Whether China capitulated or avenged itself, the weeds would have to be pulled from the vegetable garden, rope sandals would need to be woven if they were to have shoes, and the thieves who tried often to steal their few chickens had to be kept away. The dampened hem of Beck Isak's woolen coat had frozen stiff, but at last Isak found the boarding house. The long trip from Pyongyang had exhausted him. In contrast to the snowy north, the cold in Busan was deceptive. Winter in the south appeared milder, but the frosty wind from the sea seeped into his weakened lungs and chilled him to the marrow. When he'd left home, Isak had been feeling strong enough to make the train journey, but now he felt depleted again, and he knew he had to rest. From the train station in Busan, he had found his way to the small boat that ferried him across to Yeongdo, and once off the boat, the coal man from the area had brought him to the door of the boarding house. Isak exhaled and knocked, ready to collapse, believing that if he could sleep well for the night, he would be better in the morning. Jin had just settled onto her cotton-covered pallet when the younger servant girl tapped on the door frame of the alcove room where all the women slept together. Achumoni, there's a gentleman here. He wants to speak to the master of the house. Something about his brother who was here years ago. The gentleman wants to stay. Tonight, the servant girl said, breathless.